All right, hey everybody. I'm Richard from Hack MIT. I organize an organization called TechX, which does Hack MIT in addition to several other events, which I'll get into. And I'm a junior studying CS philosophy, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so let's get into it. So the titles are not showing up, but we'll go with it. So as I was saying, I run TechX, which has about 75 members, including a 14-person exec board. And specifically, I want to talk about how to get a large team organized together, because I know a lot of the hackathon organizers are small teams with small number of people, and there are definitely advantages to that. But a lot of times you want to get bigger for various advantages I'll get into, and it's trickier than it might seem. So, all right, so our structure is a little bit weird because originally before we became hackathon organizers, we also ran an event called Tech Fair, which is sort of a career fair tech expo hybrid. And running the fair had about a 40-person team by itself, with maybe like 10 people on corporate relations, which is sort of like sponsorships, 10 people on logistics, 10 people on marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And that structure worked really well, but it also led to a lot of people who didn't have as much to do as we would have liked. So we expanded into Hack MIT, which took place last fall, which is also organizing a high school hackathon in a couple weeks. Make MIT, organizing a hardware hackathon in a couple weeks, and a couple of events called Tech Talks and Think. And I'm gonna apologize because from here on I did not have time to do more pictures and the title slides are not showing up. So I'll just sort of go with it. All right, so I think the next slide was like the positives of having a large team. Which I was gonna go through really briefly because I think intuitively it might seem like positives. There we go. Let's just go with this. All right. So let's just go through these real quick. All right, next slide. You learn from each other, you know. So obviously, hardware hackathon, a lot of similarities to a software hackathon. Ask about how to get sponsors. Ask about how to do food. Ask about pretty much anything. A lot of connections. You just say, hey, let me connect you to you. Awesome. You have a lot of coordination. Next slide. Volunteer manpower. People, you're not going to get some random person to help work for 2 hours, but if you've had, say, someone running their own, like, Make MIT hackathon, they might be willing to help out with the next Hack MIT because they're all part of the same team. Next. Pubbing manpower. You know, social media is so big these days, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. Have people share. It's all over everyone's news feeds. Next. Networking, as I was saying, connect X to Y. Next. Collaboration's kind of like the one I mentioned earlier already, but also logistically, if you have other organizations at your school running other tech events, you don't want things to collide because your audience will get split. So if you're all part of sort of the same organization, then you can collaborate and organize things ahead of time together and work with each other rather than against. Next. Alumni, always great. Next. Reputation. So this was actually pretty big when Hack MIT ran into some issues with the administration, which Katie's going to talk about later. But part of the benefit of having a large team that's run events before was that we were able to use our reputation to sort of get the administration to sort of trust us and get us on their side. So if you have experience running large events previously, then your reputation will work for you, definitely. Next. And lastly, of course, impact. If you're doing a lot of different things, then you're doing a lot more and helping your school, your community, et cetera, a lot more. So what to watch out for. I think the biggest problem is, next slide, is if you get so focused on building a large team to fulfill your vision, you forget that you have a lot of people who have their own needs. They're all students who are very busy and their own sort of agendas. And it is great to sort of get everyone on board with your vision, but you also have to keep in mind what's in it for your team. And so, next slide. How to make it work is to simply create value. So the two biggest ways we do that is to do new events, not just within a hackathon. You can expand by doing a lot of side events, as Britton mentioned, and adding different elements, adding new flavors, which is definitely valuable. A lot of times you can think about how to go from, instead of going from like 1 to 1,000 or from 1 to 100 to 500 to 1,000, you can also think about how to go from 0 to 1. For example, the Hack MIT team, all the freshmen are running a high school hackathon, which is sort of a new, it's sort of similar, but it also has its new twists. So you're going from 0 to 1 in an area, and you're creating new value. Another big way to create value is to have freshmen, because they don't have a lot of the experience. So things like basic sponsorship, basic logistics, marketing, those types of things that an experienced seasoned hackathon organizer might find a little bit boring, or it's a routine for them. If you have freshmen, it's a new learning experience for them, and you're creating value for them, and they'll be able to run things in the future. Next. So what to watch out for that is a lack of unity, because obviously you have a lot of groups going across different boards, different agendas and different organizations being run. And really the best way to, next slide, how to make it work, is to, next slide, select a really good team. A disproportionate amount of time is spent on doing the work. Not nearly enough time is spent on selecting a team of trustworthy, solid people. Make sure you actually hang out with each other and socialize rather than just being colleagues, which I think most people do a great job of naturally. All right, so I think that's 5 minutes are up. All right, we're good?
Yeah, I mean, take like 30 seconds if you need to.
All right, let's just go. Let's just go next. Okay, on restructuring. A really important way to watch out for when you're restructuring an organization is to continue a narrative. Make sure you have a set of ideals and goals and reasons why, hey, we do hackathon just like every other school does a hackathon. What are our values? What are we going for? What are we pushing for? What makes us different? And sort of continue that like family narrative that's continued from previous organizations. And it's really important to keep in mind that you might have your vision of how your organization will look 2 or 3 years down the road, but ultimately the people define the roles. You can say, okay, we need one person in charge of this. You'll need one designer, one person in charge of sponsorship, one person in charge of marketing, whatever. But really, a lot of times, the real creative juice is going to come from a single, really motivated individual who says, I want to do this. And then if you trust them, then you just let them run with it, and something new happens from that. All right. And I think I'm really out of time now, so